Welcome back. Happy Friday. Happy Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving. Happy Freedom Friday. Welcome to my Freedom Friday live feed. I am starting a little late. It is a holiday after all. Today I'm talking about security, cybersecurity. But just first, Freedom Fridays, where I talk about everything Office Without Walls, Office Without Walls lifestyle, working remotely, living a life that does not chain to a desk. So my ultimate goal is to help people and business owners specifically feel more free. So today we're talking about cybersecurity, specifically passwords. Why am I talking about this? Because I got hacked. Last week I got hacked. It was a very scary moment. I was literally sitting here coming up with a cybersecurity post for Instagram with my VA and watching as files were being deleted off of my OneDrive. So I was literally watching it happen and it was very right there in your chest. That was a real wake-up call for me in terms of figuring out how to make sure that I am doing everything I can to back up things and make sure things are secure. So I'm going to be talking about cybersecurity, kind of taking my example and hoping you don't have to go through the same thing. And I'm breaking it down into a few different things because I've done a few different things since that happened, and I was able to recover everything. So thank goodness. I've done a few things since then, including looking at passwords, backups, and VPNs. So starting today with passwords, because this was one of the more surprising ones for me. I was essentially going to start changing my password every 90 days, keeping everything tight and secure that way until I started reading about maybe that's not the best way to go. Now, experts vary on what the best practices are, but I'm going to get into a little bit about why that might not be the best thing to do. I was all prepared every 90 days to change everything and just get used to that. Even though it's a pain in the butt, I figured that if I just started doing it, I would get used to it eventually and it would get better. So first of all, I didn't know until I started looking into this that there are standards with regards to passwords. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has guidelines that began being released in 2017 about best practices for things like passwords and two-step authentication and those types of things. And these are guidelines that the feds are required to follow, but a lot of corporations actually follow them as well as best practices. So one of the things that I noticed and that I was reading about is there are no set optimal metrics for how often you should change your passwords. Actually, the focus is more on there being unique passwords and being complex passwords, okay? So not changing them so often, but making sure that you don't have the same password for different accounts and that they are complex enough, not using standard things like dictionary words. We all know not to use pets' names, birthdays, those types of things. But one thing I hadn't thought of that these articles really shed some light on for me was that you can use special characters that include emojis. Hadn't thought of that, hadn't considered that. All right, so most security experts believe that if you have a strong and unique password, you shouldn't change it unless you believe it's been compromised. So sticking with the same password as long as it's complex and it's not using it across accounts is a good idea. And I just want to point out that according to the Verizon data breach investigations report, compromised passwords are responsible for 81% of hacking-related breaches. So this is important stuff, looking at your passwords. So focusing more on the complexity and the variation rather than changing it frequently. And so why might changing it frequently be not a good idea? Well, if we're changing it frequently, we know that we're going to try and make it something that's familiar, and therefore we're more tempted to make it something that's too easy and something that can be guessed. So making it complex and focusing on that, instead of trying to change it every 3 months, like what I was going to do, for me is sounding like a good idea. And a lot of the reasons why experts discourage the frequent changing of it. So now, with regards to choosing a password and making sure your password is complex enough, you can change and test the security of your passwords using online password programs. The one I found to use was Nordpass. Now, Nordpass is also a VPN provider, which I'll get more into the VPNs on future Fridays. But using Nordpass, you can go in and test the strength of your password. And in understanding And actually, they have a few tips. Actually, before I jump into that, they have a few tips. So don't reuse passwords. So not using passwords for more than one account. Don't write your passwords down and use a password saver. There are plenty of both paid and free versions of password savers instead of writing your passwords down. But checking the complexity of your password using Nordpass, and understanding how Nordpass rates the complexity of your passwords. They look at the different ways that hackers get at your password. So some of those are brute force attacks, so just guessing at what your password is using trial and error, computer programs, that kind of thing. Dictionary attacks, so going after passwords that are, dictionary-based words, those things that are easy to guess. Phishing techniques, so when someone tries to get you to reveal personal information, either through emails. Oh, and because I'm going to do 1 week on email security. When all of that was going on, when I was freaking out, watching my things get deleted, I was calling Microsoft, okay? And usually Microsoft is dope when it comes to customer service and IT and support. But the message I got this day, as I'm freaking out, is, hello, Microsoft help has gone online. Like not helpful at all. But anyway, it led me to ended up with on the phone with GoDaddy. Long story short, one of the first things we looked at was the email security. So email security is very important. It's not necessary for when it comes to phishing now, it's not necessary for you to open the email and click on the link. All you need to do is get the email from somebody you know, have it look familiar, and open that email to compromise yourself. So creating some protections for yourself at that level, important. And I'll get more into that later. So Nordpass, you can put your password into there, nordpass.com, and it will check the security of your password and rate it for you, providing information about how long it would take for someone for your password to be compromised based on their data. Interesting. All right, so looking at password storage, I use LastPass. It's a popular one. There are 12 top picks from PC Mag for 2021. LastPass is one of those. Since I'm talking from personal experience, I do like LastPass. It has an app on the phone. You can use it from the computer. It stores everything, and it also has a Chrome tie-in that allows you to save things as you're logging into your account. I use the paid version because I have my mom on my account so that we can be emergency retrievals for each other, or emergency options for each other, and also have everything in one place. There is a free version of the same thing, and there are free versions of a lot of these things, but here are some of the top 12 picks from PC Mag. Keeper, if you haven't heard of that, is a good one. Zoho, Dashlane. I already said LastPass, which I really do like. At first I didn't, but I do. Bitwarden. Bitwarden came up when I was doing a tech presentation last year. It has a free version that is adequate. If you're not looking to pay for these services, that is a good one. Bitwarden, LogMe, and Password Boss. So those are a few that you can check out for storing passwords, keeping them in a secure place. I'll admit, I didn't always do this. I had all of my passwords in a OneNote file, and that is not secure at all. And then when I tried to secure it, I put a password on it and then forgot what the password was. So keeping your passwords using a password, an app or a system for securing those passwords, ideal. They also have external ones you can keep on your body. I don't think that really is helpful if you're trying to be efficient. So check any of those out. So if you're joining late, we're talking about password security. Went over some best practices, noted that there are actually, from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, there are actually guidelines to follow with regards to password best practices. The feds must follow these things. Corporations, a lot of corporations do. I encourage you to look those up. There are new 2020 guidelines that came out last year. So just just going over what I talked about. It was surprising to me to learn after I got hacked last week that there is no set metric for how frequently you should change your passwords. One of the things I was going to jump into was changing it every 30 days. Turns out that might not be the best practices. Why? Because you might end up making your passwords weaker because you're trying to make them easier to remember. The focus should be on complexity of the passwords and making sure you don't have the same password for multiple accounts. That's the most important thing to focus on. And also was very encouraged to find out that your passwords can include emojis. Even harder to guess. So next week, I'm going to keep talking about the cybersecurity stuff. It's important. I'm committed to making sure that people and business owners feel free talking about Office Without Walls stuff. So continuing with cybersecurity, I still have to talk about VPNs. I still have to talk about external hard drives, and I still have to talk about email security. So that's coming up in the weeks to come. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Happy Freedom Friday. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. Be blessed.